2,400 microsieverts per year. So you don't have to overreact and be over-worried. Having said so, given the situation in Fukushima Daiichi, the dose rate is actually higher than the normal levels. And obviously, if you're inside, there is the attenuation effect. But so if you have 2-digit or 3-digit microsieverts, if it's just for several days, it's okay. But if it's prolonged, you are exposed to that dose rate for an extended period, that could have some impact. And that's why it's very important for the authorities to continue to release information on the dose rates on the ground so as to allow people to make the right decisions. By the way, the iodine or cesium, what types of rays do those radioactive elements emit? They will emit beta rays, so aluminum foil would be enough to shield such rays. But I think a larger concern would be radioactive material that could be contained in food, such as spinach or milk. Once those radioactive materials get into the system, and if you should ingest them, that could be a larger concern. But the levels that we are seeing now could be above the control limits, but just by consuming them over several times wouldn't really make a difference. If you continue to ingest such contaminated food for a year, that could be a concern, but obviously there's some safety margin built in the control limits. Obviously, you don't want to consume such food. So, if for some items from particular areas that are limited and that for those shipments are controlled, you might want to avoid them.
Thousands of people have fled their homes amid mounting concern about radiation leaking from a crippled nuclear power plant. Local governments across the country say that more than 29,000 citizens of Fukushima Prefecture have left the vicinity of the Fukushima Daiichi and Daini plants. The meteorological agency says that around the Daiichi plant, gentle north winds will continue to blow around noon, switching to southeast winds in the afternoon. The government on Monday instructed 4 prefectures in and around the Fukushima plant to suspend shipments of some farm products. The move follows the detection of radioactive materials in spinach and milk. We now look at how the measure is affecting farmers, makers, and consumers.
Harvested in Fukushima Prefecture. The Chief Cabinet Minister says that the provisional limits are sometimes exceeded among some of the samples, however, that it doesn't have the impact immediate bad impact on the health of the people. Fukushima Prefecture, Ibaraki Prefecture, and Tochigi Prefecture, and Gunma Prefecture are instructed to refrain from shipping the spinach and kakina vegetables and raw milk harvested in.
You're watching NHK World, and this is a newsline for 10 a.m. Japan time. I'm Catherine Kobayashi in Tokyo. We're currently waiting for an official from Japan's Nuclear Industrial and Safety Agency to speak at a press conference. It's scheduled to start at 10:30 local time. We're waiting for an official from Japan's Nuclear Industrial and Safety Agency to speak at a press conference. It will begin in about 30 minutes. Meanwhile, let's give you an update on the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Water spraying operations and work to restore power and the cooling functions have been suspended on Monday due to smoke coming from the number 3 reactor building. There have also been reports that radioactive substances were detected in samples of vegetables, milk, and seawater taken near the plant. Now, as we mentioned, work to restore power and the cooling functions at the nuclear power plant has been delayed. Tokyo Electric Power Company evacuated all employees working to restore power on Monday evening after smoke was seen rising from the number 2 and number 3 reactor buildings. TEPCO says the radiation level at the plant briefly increased after the smoke was detected, but later fell. External cables have been installed and are ready to supply power to the number 1 and 2 reactor buildings. If successful, that should clear the way for restoring the cooling systems to the reactors. The company can then monitor the temperature and water level of the reactors and the spent fuel storage pools. TEPCO also says the workers